Commanders Nation, get ready because what you're about to hear will change everything you thought about this season. I have 3 explosive bombs that are going to shake the foundations of Ashburn. An injury that could completely wreck our defense. A coach who just threw away our second-round pick hopes. And a revelation about our team's preparation that will leave you speechless. If you leave now, you'll be wondering all week what you missed. This is not filler content. These are news pieces that will define the future of our franchise. Hit that like button right now, subscribe if you haven't. And brace yourselves because this is going to be more intense than a Monday Night Football. Let's go all in. I can't believe what's happening to our secondary. And I'm going to tell you something that's going to hurt, but you need to hear it. We're on the brink of total disaster. Jonathan Jones' injury isn't just another loss. It's the trigger of a bomb that was waiting to explode in our faces. Jones was our insurance policy. The guy who could play any position in the secondary without the level dropping. Nickel corner, safety, even outside corner when needed. This man was the definition of versatility. And now that he's out for at least 4 weeks, the entire defensive structure is wobbling like a house of cards. But here comes what really has me worried. And it's something many fans don't want to accept. Marshon Lattimore is playing like he's completely lost his step. And I'm not exaggerating for drama. I've reviewed every snap, every play, every coverage since he came to Washington, and I'll give you the cold, hard facts. The decline of Marshon Lattimore since Lattimore donned the Burgundy and Gold. He's been systematically targeted by rival offensive coordinators. And you know why? Because they've identified exactly what I've seen. He no longer has the mirror speed to follow elite receivers on deep vertical routes. In the game against the Giants in Week 1, I saw at least 3 occasions where Malik Neighbors left him behind on comeback and out routes. Against Green Bay, it was even worse. Romeo Doubs and Jalen Reed were constantly finding separation against his coverage. I'm talking 4 to 5 yards of cushion on routes of 15 to 18 yards. That's unacceptable for a player of his caliber. And here's the deeper problem. When an elite corner like Lattimore starts to decline, it's not just one position that's affected. Defensive coordinators have to start giving him help over the top with safeties, which means fewer players in the box to stop the run, less pressure on creative blitzes, and basically, the entire defensive philosophy goes out the window. Joe Witt Jr. is in an impossible position. He can't keep exposing Lattimore in man-to-man coverage against rival number 1 receivers. But he also can't publicly admit that his star corner can no longer do the job. So we're seeing these strange coverages with constant help over the top that are limiting the full potential of our defense. The weight on Mike Sainristil with Jones out and Lattimore struggling. Mike Sainristil has become the most important player in our secondary, and that should worry us all. Not because Sainristil is bad, the Michigan kid has real talent, but because we're asking him to be Superman, when he should be focusing on mastering just one position. Sainristil came here to be our future nickel corner. In Michigan, he was a machine in short coverage, with that aggression and tackling and those quick feet you need in the slot. But now the coaching staff is moving him everywhere, nickel and 3 receiver packages, outside corner when they need speed. I've even seen him lined up as a safety in dime formations. And here's my concern: when you force a young player to be a joker, they never develop the specific mastery you need in each position. In nickel, you have to read crossing patterns, handle picks and rubs, and have that physical mindset to tackle in short spaces. As an outside corner, it's a completely different game. You need the speed to run vertically with deep receivers, and the technical prowess for press coverage. Sainristil has the athletic tools to do both. But development takes time. And in the meantime, opposing teams are starting to do their homework. I've already seen that Green Bay specifically attacked the side, where he was playing as an outside corner with deep comeback routes and double moves. That's no coincidence. That's professional scouting identifying a weakness. Brandon Amos, the rookie in the fire. Then we have Brandon Amos. And here's where things really get interesting. This kid came from Ole Miss with all the physical tools you're looking for in a modern corner. 6 foot, long arms, 4-point for speed, and that physical aggression you need to compete against NFL receivers. In the draft, many analysts compared him to players like Jalen Ramsey in terms of athletic profile. And I can see why. He has that rare combination of size and speed that lets you match against different types of receivers. But here's the brutal reality. Being a rookie corner in the NFL is like being thrown to the wolves. Teams are already doing their homework on Amos. In the game against Green Bay, I saw at least 4 occasions where Jordan Love specifically looked to his side when he was in coverage. They threw double move routes, hitches with immediate comebacks, and those timing routes that are nightmares for rookies still learning to read receivers' hips. The talent is there, don't get me wrong. I saw flashes against the Giants where he had sticky coverage on routes of 12 to 15 yards. And his break on the ball in a couple of plays reminded me why the scouting department fell in love with him. But the consistency isn't there yet, and in the NFL, inconsistency kills you. What worries me most is that with all this pressure on the secondary, they'll rush his development more than would be ideal. Ideally, a rookie like Amos should have half a year to acclimate, learn the system, and gradually take on more responsibilities. But with Jones injured and Latimore struggling, we don't have that luxury of time. Tyler Owens, the surprise nobody saw coming, but here's the part that genuinely excites me. And it's Tyler Owens. This undrafted kid from Texas Tech could be the piece that completely changes the narrative of our secondary. And I'm going to explain exactly why I think he could be special. First, the physical measurements are ridiculous. 6'2", 190 pounds, 32-inch arms. And he ran a 4.38 at his pro day. Those are elite measurements, numbers you see in corners that go in the first round. But what really impresses me isn't just the numbers, but how he uses those tools on the field. At Texas Tech, Owens wasn't just a corner, he was a complete defensive back. He played nickel, safety, even linebacker in specific packages. He had 14 pass breakups in his last season, 3 interceptions, and over 60 tackles. That tells me that he understands the game beyond just running with receivers. In the training camp, the reports I was getting from my sources inside the team were consistently positive. Owens wasn't just physically competing, but showing that instinct for the ball that can't be taught. I saw practice highlights where he was making plays on crossing routes, having the anticipation to break on comeback routes, and showing that physical aggression you need in nickel coverage. But here's what really excites me, his ceiling. With those physical measurements and that speed, Owens could develop into a corner that can handle any type of receiver. Quick slot receivers like Cooper Kupp, outside threats like DK Metcalf, athletic tight ends, he has the tools to match against them all. The problem is development and experience. Going from Texas Tech to the NFL is like jumping from AA to the major leagues. The speed of the game, the precision of the routes, the sophistication of offensive schemes, everything is on another level. But if he can make that transition, we can have an absolute steal. Antonio Hamilton Sr. and the veteran experienced, and forget about Antonio Hamilton Sr. And here's where veteran depth becomes crucial. Hamilton is 30 years old, has been in the league since 2016, and has seen it all. He isn't the most explosive athlete, doesn't have the best physical measurements, but he has something that can't be taught, game experience. Hamilton understands the timing of routes better than any other player on our roster. Outside of the starters, he knows how to use leverage, how to read quarterback hips, and how to position himself to make plays on the ball. In specific situations, 3rd and long, red zone defense, 2-minute situations, that kind of experience is invaluable. Last year with the Cardinals, Hamilton had respectable numbers in coverage when called upon. He wasn't spectacular, but he was reliable. And sometimes reliability is more valuable than potential. With all the youth and inexperience in our cornerback roster, having someone like Hamilton who can step in and not make major mental mistakes is important. My expectation is that we'll see more of him in specific packages, coverage on 3rd and long, goal line situations, maybe even some snaps as safety and dime formations when we need experience on the field. Noah Igbinoghene, the last chancey, and then there's Noah Igbinoghene. And here's where things get interesting from a talent development perspective. This kid was a first-round pick from Miami in 2020, pick number 30 overall. And so far, his career has been a massive disappointment. The physical tools have never been the problem. Igbinoghene has elite speed for point to 3 in the combine. He's athletic and has the size 5'10", 192 to compete in the NFL. The problem has always been mental, inconsistent technique, poor decisions in coverage, and a tendency to take poor angles resulting in big plays allowed. But here's the thing, at 25 years old, he still has time for his career to turn around. Some players need changes in scenery, different coaching, or simply more time for the game to click. Washington could be exactly the environment he needs. Joe Witt Jr. has a reputation for developing defensive backs, and Dan Quinn's defensive system has historically been good for players with athletic potential who need technical refinement. If Igbinoghene can finally put it all together, the speed, athleticism, and improved technical consistency, we could have a real contributor. The risk reward here is obvious. If it work. Obvious. If it work. And here comes Dan Quinn with a statement that left me completely stunned, and should worry every Commanders fan who had hopes for Ben Sinnott. With John Bates injured in the groin and likely out for the game against the Raiders, we all thought we'd finally see what our second-round tight end was made of. But Quinn just flushed those hopes down the toilet when Quinn said it wouldn't be plug and play and that it would be difficult for anyone to fill Bates' void. He basically admitted that after almost 2 seasons in the system, our pick number 53 from 2024 still isn't ready for an important role. And I'm going to tell you something that hurts but needs to be heard. That's a massive red flag on our scouting and player development. The fundamental problem with Sinnott, let's analyze this from the start. Ben Sinnott came from Kansas State with a specific reputation. He was a natural blocker, an old-school tight end who could open holes on the line of scrimmage and protect the quarterback. At Kansas State, he was known for his blocking technique, his nastiness in the trenches, and his ability to move defensive linemen at the point of attack. But here's the problem I'm seeing. There's a massive difference between blocking at the college level against defensive ends who will work at insurance companies versus blocking in the NFL against pass rushers who run for point 4 and have 15+ sacks per season. In college, Sinnott could use technique and leverage to neutralize most of the defensive linemen he faced. But in the NFL, these edge rushers are not only faster and stronger, but they have more sophisticated moves and better hand technique. It's like comparing amateur boxing with professional prize fighting. And what worries me most is that apparently, the coaching staff doesn't trust him to handle that upgrading competition. After almost 2 seasons in NFL facilities, with NFL coaching, NFL strength programs, he's still not ready to be counted on when needed. The evidence of the Lambeau Field disaster here is the most damning evidence of all. When Bates got injured in the game against Green Bay, you know what the coaching staff did. They left Josh Conerly Jr., a rookie tackle, completely alone against that Packers pass rush. I reviewed the film of that game, and what I saw was painful. Conerly, who was already struggling as a rookie tackle, suddenly had to handle edge rushers in one-on-one situations without any help. Preston Smith and Lucas Van Ness were getting free runs at the quarterback because nobody was chipping or providing extra protection. And where was Sinnott during all that? On the sideline, watching as our rookie tackle turned into a turnstile. That tells me that either Sinnott doesn't know the blocking schemes well enough to be trusted, or physically can't handle the assignment. Either option. It's unacceptable for a second-round pick in his second season. At that point in his career, he should be able to step in and provide reliable blocking. Even if it's not at Bates' elite level. John Bates, the impossible standard, no. To be fair, John Bates has set an incredibly high bar. This guy is genuinely one of the best blocking tight ends in the entire NFL. His combination of size, strength, technique, and football IQ is elite level. When teams study tape of Washington's running game, Bates is frequently the key player that makes everything work. Bates doesn't just block defensive ends, he moves them, manhandles them, and creates running lanes that wouldn't exist otherwise. In short yardage situations, goal line stands, third and short conversions, he's been absolutely crucial to the success of our offense. Expecting Sinnott to immediately replace that level of production is maybe unfair, but expecting him to provide competent, reliable blocking that doesn't get our quarterback killed, that's reasonable for any second-round tight end. And here's what frustrates me. We're not even asking Sinnott to be John Bates. We're asking him to be good enough that we don't have to completely change our offensive schemes when Bates isn't available. Apparently, even that's too much to expect right now. But let's talk about the bigger picture here, because this goes beyond just one player. When you draft a tight end in the second round, you're making a statement about your organizational priorities. You're saying that this position is crucial to your offensive identity and that you found a player who can contribute significantly. Ben Sinnott was supposed to be part of the future of this offense. With Zach Ertz getting older, he's 34 years old now. The plan was obviously for Sinnott to gradually take over more responsibilities and eventually become the primary tight end. But if he can't even fill in reliably when needed, what does that say about his long-term prospects? More importantly, what does that say about our scouting department's ability to identify and develop talent? We could have used that second-round pick on multiple other positions of need. Offensive line depth, linebacker, safety, even another receiver. Instead, we invested in a player who apparently still can't be trusted to handle expanded duties. And this brings up a concerning pattern that I've been noticing with Washington's recent draft picks. We seem to struggle with developing players, particularly on offense. Too many picks that look good on paper, but don't translate to meaningful contributions on Sundays. Is it a coaching problem? Is it a scouting problem? Is it a development program problem? Probably it's a combination of all three, but regardless of where the blame lies, the results speak for themselves. Sinnott isn't the only example. Look at some of our other recent picks that haven't developed as expected. There's a pattern here that should concern everyone in the organization. In terms of immediate impact, this means that our offensive line protection is going to suffer if Bates can't go against the Raiders, and facing Max Crosby without proper tight end help. That's a recipe for disaster. Crosby is one of the most relentless pass rushers in the NFL. He has elite bend around the edge, multiple pass rush moves, and a motor that never stops. Even with Bates providing extra protection, Crosby presents massive challenges. Without him, our tackles are going to be on an island against one of the best edge rushers in football. This could completely change our offensive game plan. Maybe we have to keep more players in for protection, which limits our receiving options. Maybe we have to call more quick passes and avoid deep developing routes. Maybe we have to run more running plays to keep Crosby from pinning his ears back. All of those adjustments limit what we can do offensively. And that's exactly what you want to avoid when you're trying to establish consistency in your passing game. With Sinnott apparently not ready for expanded responsibilities, other players will have to step up. That means more pressure on our offensive tackles, more responsibilities for our running backs in protection, and possibly even changes to our receiver alignments to provide extra help. Jaden Daniels, whether he starts or Marcus Mariota gets the call, is going to have to be much more aware of pressure and probably get rid of the ball quicker than ideal. That limits the ability to let deep routes develop and puts more emphasis on quick, precision passing. Our running backs, whoever's available after Austin Eckler's injury, might have to stay in for protection more frequently, which limits our ability to use them as receiving threats. Out of the backfield, even our receivers might have to adjust their routes to provide more quick options and help the quarterback get rid of the ball faster. That's not ideal for developing timing and rhythm in the passing game. But maybe the most concerning aspect of this whole situation is what it says about organizational confidence in their own draft picks. When your head coach publicly states that a second-round pick from last season can't be relied upon to fill in for an injured starter, that sends a message throughout the organization. It tells other players that maybe development isn't as prioritized as it should be. It tells fans that our draft strategy might not be as sound as we hoped. And it puts additional pressure on Sinnott himself, who now has to overcome not just his own limitations, but also his coach's public lack of confidence. For a young player, that kind of public doubt can be devastating to confidence and development. Instead of getting opportunities to grow through game experience, he's now facing even more scrutiny and pressure to prove himself. Looking forward, this situation raises serious questions about Sinnott's future with the organization. If he can't be trusted to contribute significantly by his second season, when does he become a reliable contributor? Tight ends typically take longer to develop than other positions, especially in terms of blocking technique and understanding complex offensive systems. But by his second year, you expect to see meaningful progress and at least some capability to contribute when called upon. If Sinnott can't make that leap this season, when will he? And if he doesn't develop into a reliable contributor, what does that mean for our tight end position going forward? We might have to start looking for other options, either in free agency, upcoming drafts, or trades. That would essentially mean that our second-round investment didn't pay off as expected, which is another setback for our roster-building efforts for Commanders fans. This should be concerning on multiple levels. It raises questions about our drafting philosophy, our player development programs, and our coaching staff's ability to maximize talent. But it also represents an opportunity for realistic expectations. Maybe we were too optimistic about what Sinnott could contribute immediately. Maybe this I. And to close this triple bombshell of news, we have Dan Quinn's reaction when asked about facing Max Crosby. And his comments gave me chills for all the right and wrong reasons. When Quinn called Crosby an absolute savage and admitted that it's not going to be easy, he basically confirmed what we all feared. Our offensive line is about to face its biggest test of the season. First, let's analyze exactly what Quinn said. Yeah, not so easy, guys. Yeah, he is an absolute savage of a player. I love watching him, the energy, the effort, the skill of it. Somebody that I just respect a lot. These aren't casual words from a coach trying to give props to the opponent. This is genuine respect mixed with legitimate concern. Quinn has been in this league for decades. He has faced the best pass rushers of multiple generations. He has had to game plan against Aaron Donald, Khalil Mack, TJ Watt, and all the big names. When a coach of his experience talks with that level of respect and almost reverence about an opposing player, that tells me he's genuinely worried about what Crosby can do to our offense. And the word savage isn't something Quinn uses lightly. In the context of football, calling someone savage means they play with an intensity and aggressiveness that goes beyond normal. It means he's the kind of player who can single-handedly wreck a game plan. If you don't respect them properly, what makes this situation even more concerning is the timing. We're coming into this game after our offensive line struggled significantly against Green Bay. Preston Smith and Lucas Van Ness caused problems all night. And those are good pass rushers, but they're not on the same level as Crosby. Crosby is coming off a season where he had 14.5 sacks, 95 tackles, and was virtually unblockable at certain moments. But more than the numbers, it's his motor that makes him special. This guy plays every snap like it's the Super Bowl, regardless of the score, regardless of the game situation. And here's what really worries me: if our offensive line struggled against Green Bay's pass rush, and now Quinn is publicly expressing this level of concern about Crosby, what does that tell us about his confidence in our protection schemes? Quinn's comments essentially confirm what many of us have been noticing. Our offensive line has serious vulnerabilities that can be exploited by elite pass rushers. And Crosby is exactly the kind of player who exploits those weaknesses. In the game against Green Bay, I saw multiple occasions where our tackles were beaten around the edge. Our interior line had communication issues that resulted in free rushers up the middle. And our tight end help, particularly without Bates, wasn't sufficient to provide the extra protection needed. Now we're facing a player whom Quinn described as having energy, effort, and skill at an elite level. Crosby doesn't just rely on one pass rush move, he has an entire arsenal. Speed rush around the edge, bull rush through the tackle, inside counter moves, hand fighting techniques. He can beat you in multiple ways. What makes Max Crosby particularly dangerous is that he doesn't just disappear when things aren't going his team's way. Some pass rushers will ease up if their team is getting blown out or if the game seems out of reach. Not Crosby. He plays every single snap with maximum intensity. Last season, in games where the Raiders were getting demolished, Crosby was still bringing pressure on every down. In games where